Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude BeyondMystic, and welcome to this deep woo-woo episode entitled Cosmic Agency with GOSIA. You can find her work here at Cosmic Agency on YouTube, and you can find all the transcripts of her communiques at swaru.org. Let's give her a big, warm welcome back to the show, GOSIA. Bienvenido.
Hi, hello everybody. How are you doing? Thank you to everybody in the chat. Hello to your moderators, and thank you for inviting me again to this show.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm always excited when you're on. And it occurred to me last week or 2 weeks ago when you were here that there's quite a bit new viewers on our show since you
Yeah.
had been on my show before, and I had lost that channel. So there might still be
Oh,
some people out here from the last show saying, "Who's Gosha? Where's this coming
yeah.
from?" We didn't really understand. So, Gosha, maybe take 2 minutes here to explain a little bit how you're a contactee, when this contact started, and how that drove you to having your own website, and how things evolved over the last couple of years. Maybe just take 2 minutes to explain to people here who are just new to this channel.
Yes, if you are new to the channel, well, thank you. Thank you for watching, first of all. And thank you for having an open mind, because if you are here on JC's show, so for sure you have an open mind. So keep that open mind going during my story. So in 2017, we have met with a lady, me and my Spanish friend, Robert, and we were introduced to the Tagetan Pleiadians, who are stationed in the orbit of the Earth. By the way, they're not the only ones. I always have to stress that. And
Mhm.
the Earth orbit is full of extraterrestrial ships, ships of the Federation and non-Federation, and also regressive races as well. But that's for another topic. So we had started communicating with them by the internet. Yes, by the internet, as this is something that they resorted to, discarding the channeling, because they have been channeling before with people, and they have realized that this is a much better way of contacting people right now, because it's much more direct and more to the point. And me and Robert starting to present this information first in Spanish, and then I opened in the English channel, Cosmic Agency, and I present what they share. I have to just stress that they never asked us to do this. This was purely voluntary. We are not the only contactees. They have contacted many people throughout the years. It's just that it's us who are still here sharing this information, because we believe in this information. They share all types of knowledge and information on spirituality, science, biology, technology, exopolitics, and what's happening on Earth and outside Earth, metaphysics. It's all very detailed, very complex, very important, and it's not distorted. And this is why this type of contact is so important, according to me, because it's not something that I am changing with my own interpretation, nothing that I'm adding. It's all as they told us, copy and paste, basically.
Right.
Uh, so we have been in contact for 4 years now, almost daily. We have had some audio conversations as well, so we could hear them and they could hear us. And also we had one physical contact, but we can never talk about this much, so I just mention it, but that's it.
Okay.
Uh, Much more can be said, but this is just a summary.
Okay, very good. I love the lights that are coming down next to you. It feels like it's coming down from the tractor beam of the spaceship above us. So
Oh
it makes
no,
for
there is no beam here.
it looks great though. Thank you.
Yeah, just a light tree.
Very
One
good.
second.
Very quickly, maybe talk about some of the cast of characters on this team, and how
Yes.
some of them have been replaced by other people. These people are on mission, and so it's not always the same person you're talking to. And just to be clear for the
Yes.
audience too, the people in orbit right now are communicating through, I'm assuming, satellite first in order to be able to connect to the internet. Is that the mechanism from which they're reaching you, Gosha? Is that how your understanding of it?
I have explained this a few times, how they are communicating. I can actually go to the website and just read you very short, very fast, because
Okay.
this was the question that was also asked at the latest Finnish conference that we did here in Finland 2 months ago. We actually had a live, I don't know if you know, we had a live communication with the audience. It happened for the first time in the world this way, with our contact, that we had the audience, the public, and Athena Svaru was responding questions live. I was taking questions from from the audience on a piece of paper. So
Wow.
that was actually one of the questions. How do you communicate? So because I'm not very technical, I always forget this. So let me just read it very fast. It's not very long, and you will see how they communicate. The answer was this. How do you communicate? Okay, so the answer, we have an electrical converter to pass our electric grid nomenclature to a human one, to feed replicated or original examples of your digital computers. Now, she's describing two types of internet access, long range and short range. So long range, internet signal is passed by wire to a special router we made that translates it to muon communication method. Then it goes to a special human-made satellite that translates muon back to digital. And from there into a Federation-controlled server on the surface of the planet under the control of certain governments that are complicit with the Federation. And from there into the regular internet. And just a very short sentence, short-range internet. From a starship, like above, signal is passed directly to a human-made satellite and then to Federation servers on the surface, and then into the regular internet. So the Federation controls certain servers on Earth, as it says here, in compliance with certain governments, and then it goes to the regular internet.
Wow, that's fascinating. Okay, that's really cool. I had an idea, and I think I probably talked about this maybe 2 years ago. But thank you for that answer. That's very precise. That's really cool. And I love the fact that you were able to do this conference live, and you have a Q&A.
Yes.
You and I were lucky enough to do that too. Also, maybe a year ago, I think we had one of your team members here live. That was Annika. I think Annika was. Yes, that was.
This goes back to your original question: who do you talk to, and the team members and all that. So first, we started talking to Svaru of Erra and Annika and many other team members. Like all together, we spoke to 16 of them. But the principal contact was Svaru of Erra. She's not here anymore, I must stress. And then Annika of Temer, who we constantly communicate with. And then now we talk to Yaski Svaru. I don't want to go into this metaphysical, story of Svarus and all that. That just dig into the videos and you'll discover it for yourself. There'll be some metaphysical surprises for you of who is Svaru and what type of being she represents. And let me just tell you, the time travel is involved and multiple timelines and multiple versions of the same person.
Right.
So all very, very fascinating. Something I was going to mention, actually something important, and I forgot. It's okay.
Okay, very good. You might, don't worry, we're just having a conversation. And for the audience members, okay, go ahead, Shai, go ahead.
I know, I just want to mention that for the viewers who are just watching this and not sure if they want to keep watching, I just want to say that yesterday I had a chat with Annika, and I'm going to read what she said last night. And this has not been mentioned in the video yet. I don't have this in the video format.
So a live exclusive here for the Beyond Mystic audience. I love it. Okay. Lisa DiMartino on the chat says, yes, JC, that was fun. She remembers being here on my previous channel where we had the live Q's and A's with Annika. So that was absolutely amazing. And yes, GOSIA and I were talking this week, and we were kind of surveying the landscape of all of these reports we're having from the different contactees around the planet as it pertains to the situation on Mars, on the moon, in low Earth orbit, here on the ground, and also underground. So we thought, hey, can we maybe try to get your team's perspective on the situation for all of these different layers here of this spiritual war that we're fighting in? And so that's what led to this last communication between GOSIA and her team. And I'm going to leave you now, GOSIA, the microphone to start developing some of those updates. And here and there, if I have any questions, I'll pop in, but I'll try to let you get the ground running, so to speak, here.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm going to read, and if you see anything that you want to comment on or ask, just jump in. I'm not just going to read. I may comment here and there as well. Okay. And this was based on your question that you sent me for the show a few days ago, and you said, how about we talk about the status of the wars and what's happening, and the clearance of dumps and removal of technology, bad technologies and all that, like what's happening on Mars and all these operations on the moon, because this is what a lot of people talk about, and this is what is being addressed a lot in exopolitics movements, and this is what many contactees talk about. However, if you know our material, then you know that this is not something really that our team goes into very much, or they do explain the behind the scenes happenings. Like, for example, we did the whole series on the Federation last June. What is the Federation? How they operate? Because they are the ultimate managers of the Earth. So they are explaining a lot of things behind the scenes. They are not very much liked by the Federation because of that. But with regards to all these space operations, like liberations of planets and operations on Mars, this is not something they go into. And why? What you understand in this transcript? But first, they see a lot of this as a distraction. So, for example, all these talks about liberations of planets and liberations of things, this is, you just have to look at what's happening on Earth to see really what's going on. And they see all these talks about liberations of other planets as this sort of a hopium movement, where they are trying to instill in people this hope that we will be saved next. That, hey, if the Federation is so involved in the liberation of all these other places, then there is going to be a time when the Earth will be next. They will come for us and save us. The time is now, and they are not doing this. And I'm not going to go into the whole papaya program that is evolving around the world, but just look at that situation itself. And where are they? Why are they not really addressing what's happening on Earth if they are so involved in all these liberations movements? So one topic is, one angle is that's a distraction. That's simply not happening. And second of all, and you'll see this in this transcript, is because a lot of these conflicts that are happening on Mars, for example, or somewhere, all these operations, this is like a daily bread for them. They don't comment on this because this is not something new. People are talking about this like it's something that is just happening, or all these updates about moon programs or whatever. But it's nothing new. It's been happening for years. Dumps clearances. This has been talked about for years as well. Nothing is really going on the moon worth mentioning. Conflicts on Mars have been happening always. And we just made this video about Mars. What's on Mars a few weeks ago, Earth and Mars. And you'll see that the Mars is heavily militarized, and it's divided into 3 sections. First section is owned by the Cabal, human and reptilian mix. Then another part is owned by Mantis. Oh, I'm getting confused already. You see, I'm very bad with these details. And Mantis, and the third race, a tall grace, I think. So there are always conflicts there and skirmishes, nothing worth reporting on, and nothing transcendental happening. So this is all taking our focus away from what's happening on Earth, what needs to be happening on Earth. And what needs to be happening on Earth is people waking up and saving themselves and helping themselves, saying no, mass disobedience, because this is the only way to make this race survive. Because this is a very, very dire situation, what's happening now. Again, the words I cannot use, but if we just keep looking at all these other places, what's going on here, it is taking our focus from what needs to be happening here. And what needs to be happening is that we need to unite. Starseeds need to take power, take control, and move forward here. So anyway, you will see more in this talk that I will read.
Okay.
Any questions, comments?
No, keep going. I love it. And again, I love this because My channel is always about sparking conversation. It's always about asking the what if. What if one version of reality being presented to us is not correct? What if this other version is not correct? Where do we find ourselves? And ultimately, where do we find our self-responsibility? So this is why we have all of these conversations. And sometimes they're difficult for people because they want to grasp to one version or another. And that's okay. It's all part of this road to self-mastery. And this channel is all about bringing all of the pieces of the puzzle together so that we have a broader picture and understanding of the whole situation. But ultimately speaking, without regarding to the minutia of the details on every planet, whether it's here on the surface or on the ground, I am exactly with you on the whole story that we are the ones we're looking for or that we are waiting for. There's nobody else. Yes, we have guide spirits and benevolent ETs, but at the end of the day, the situation here on the planet is under our control. If only we take back that control. So I want to make that clear for the audience. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Now, all this other stuff is interesting.
Yes.
And it's interesting to the point also where some of this information, although like you say, might be minutia or might be a distraction, for some people in the chat, it might be a trigger for them also to wake up to their own soul mission so that they take control of their lives too. So all of these points of data are absolutely pertinent for this type of conversation. So with that said, go ahead.
Yes, a lot of topics that we shared. Also, people were saying like, what do I care about that? How is that relevant? That's a distraction. Like, for example, if we talk about Taigetan pets, we had this video on animals in Taigeta. Well, what does it really matter? But it's all, completes the picture and never stick to one version. You see, this is something that Taigetans are very clear on. Also, do not stick to just one version and one story. We will never say not to listen to other people. That's just impossible. There's no one objective reality. And we have a video on that too. There is no objective reality. There are a lot of versions and there are a lot of interests. There are a lot of points of perspectives. I mean, the universe is so huge. There are so many races within the Federation, non-Federation. There's so many agendas and points of, like I said, interests. I mean, if you talk to your neighbors in your building right now, if you have 20 people and you will ask them the opinion about what's happening right now on Earth, they will all have different idea, even though they all live in the same building. So now imagine completely different races and civilizations and philosophies and groups and levels. And that's another thing. Within the Federation itself, there are so many levels, and one level is doing something else than the other level is doing. And sometimes one level doesn't even know about what the other level is doing. And this is addressing someone in your chat now. Someone mentioned something about the Federation, that this is different from what other people say about the subject. I would like you, JC, to go to my website and just pull up those videos on the Federation. I had like 5 videos, the whole series, around June. And this will explain to you, and these are not the only ones. Last year, we also did more. It will explain to you our position and what the Taigetans told us about how the Federation runs the Earth and how complicated the subject is. It's not black and white. It has many levels. It's like layers of the onion. And how one level imagine things for Earth is different than what other levels is doing and their actions. So this topic, this is not for this video, but this topic of the Federation itself is so complex.
Absolutely. And I just want to say on that point too, yes, there's other contactees who have different points of views, and there are also other researchers here who are gathering many different points of views into one channel. An example of that would be Carrie Cassidy, who's been at this for decades now and who's spoken to contactees, to whistleblowers, to government workers, to secret space program workers and all that. And in my last interview with her, she, by the way, is the author of the book, The Rebel Gene. But in my last interview, or my second last interview with her, I asked her about the Federation, and she says, JC, it's not so black and white as perhaps some channels are making it out to be. There are diverging factions, and on a day-to-day basis, they might have different opinions also. And it's basically, her answer was, it's complicated. So as above, so below, we as humans are complicated. So too is the role and the motives, perhaps, of the Federation from our points of view, multiple points of view. So she said, be very careful. It's complicated, and there's a lot to study there. So, Gosia, you're not alone at all in that statement. So please go on.
So having said this, let me just start reading this last night's chat with Aneka. And well, the first thing she says, when you asked about the moon operations and Mars operations, so she said, so he wants space news. Okay. And she says, the problem here is that if you ask about these types of space news, it shows that maybe you are influenced by the people who are very much talking about those types of subjects and space wars, etc. And 1 second, because I'm losing my screen here. I need to see the transcript. 1 second. Just let me divide the screen. Okay, need to make it smaller.
Take your time.
Yeah, 1 second. Okay, so it's
and just while you're looking at that, to be clear too, these were the points of interest as I was polling my audience to see what kind of questions they wanted for you. So of course, I'm paying attention. I'm trying to bring to my audience subjects and topics that are interesting to them, but also to bring that back to the philosophy of this show, which again is all about self-mastery. There. So we're on the same page. Keep going.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, here she says.
Oh, hold on just a second. Christine is saying, does Aneka know of JC's channel? Yes, she was on one of our live chats maybe last year. So yes. Okay, thank you.
Yes, she was on. So the problem is that he's maybe influenced here by the people who talk a lot about these types of space news and space wars. And the fact is, there isn't much information to mention with regards to that. What we see from here isn't much with regards to space wars. What we do see is a lot of policing by Alfratans and Antarians. These are different Federation races. Alfratans are actually Centauri race, and they are very active within the Federation levels. So what we see is a lot of policing, monitoring against ships that are said to be regressive. Yes, that is what they do on a daily basis, but this is not new, so they don't comment on that. Also, a lot of Charistus ships. Charistus are the beings from Jupiter, people from Jupiter. So a lot of Charistus ships on atmospheric flight operations, mainly patrolling against reptilian and Maitre operations, against their presence, because those reptilian and Maitre races, they are not allowed by the Federation to fly atmosphere, but they do anyway. So it is an eternal cat and mouse lethal game. And yes, these operations are dangerous. So that's why many of these contactees who talk about federations risking their lives, yes, it happens, as I explained here. On that level, those federation members do monitor and patrol the skies, and they get into conflicts with those reptilians and those Maitre regressive races, because they are not supposed to be flying around here, but they do. Now, the reason we hardly talk about this sort of things with you and with Robert is because we do see them as hardly transcendental. That has been going on for decades at least, with no effect on anything. So it's nothing new. Like I said, it's daily bread, these types of conflicts for them. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm asking, what about those famous dump clearings, right? The Federation going and clearing the dumps. What is the Federation up to these days? So Aneka responds, there is a lot of talk about them, those dump clearings. By the way, how do you read it? Dump?
Yeah, dump. Yeah, deep underground military base.
Yeah, okay, dump. Okay, so there is a lot of talk about them, and have been for many years now, at least from the early 2000s, and more recently, of course. But in reality, from where we stand, we see no evidence of that. It's just a lot of talk. Now, here the Federation topics also begins. The Federation is up to nothing. It's just there sitting, monitoring. However, there's going to be more here about this.
Okay.
This is just how it starts. It's just there sitting, monitoring. Again, this leads to the idea, other people who talk to ETs are always saying that help is always around the corner, and that the Federation is clearing everything up to liberate humanity. We don't see any of that, not even with them occasionally shooting down a Draco ship. And like I said, we don't have to go far to see that what they say is true. How are they liberating the humanity if the humanity is going deeper and deeper, into trouble? So where is that liberation happening? Okay, so we don't see any of that, not even with them occasionally shooting down a Draco ship. And you understand a little bit more on this a little bit later here.
Okay.
Now, we see and understand the Federation to be so powerful here that they eliminate whatever is going against what they plan, including eliminating reptilian and Maitreya ships if that goes against their plans, their management. But it does not mean that they are working to save or liberate humanity. They are just maintaining the matrix. They are manager of this planet and of this matrix, and they are doing whatever they need to do to maintain this place. And that involves sometimes, yes, getting into conflicts with those reptilians and Maitreya, but that doesn't make them heroes or anything. Or maybe depends on their perspective, depends on their situation. Right now, they are not the heroes in the eyes of the Taigetans because they are not doing anything practical to help humans with the ongoing situation right now in this context. With other things, they are helping, but now they are not. With this current situation, which according to Taigetans is the most important situation to be helping with. Mm-hmm. And they're not. Okay. So she says, so that happens all the time. Yes. I'm sorry, I missed the spot here. So even if that means shooting down the reptilian or Maitreya ships, it doesn't mean that they are working to liberate humanity. Just means they are maintaining what they want, so the people of Earth don't see more than what they need to see.
They're maintaining their status quo, so to speak, right?
Yes, exactly. According to their ideas of how the Earth should be managed. So shooting down those ships or even clearing out those dumps, even if that happens, is just maintaining the matrix, nothing more. It's not liberating humanity in a larger scale into anything. Mm-hmm. Same as always, another day at the office, that's all. We still insist that the Federation will not come to rescue humanity as they would want them to. They would have done so already. They never have rescued humanity from the horrors that they themselves, the humans, brought upon themselves as the Federation sees this. Because that's another policy here. This
is a big can of worms to get into, but yes, I know where you're going. Yeah, keep going.
Yes. So as the Federation sees this, so they have never rescued humanity from the horrors they themselves brought upon themselves as the Federation sees this. So no, they cannot stop what is coming to humanity, and that is dark times. Now, with so many people vaxxed with papaya, the pandemic and its consequences simply must run its course at this point. Simply must happen now, for better or for worse. There is no going back with the effects of the papayas. It will happen, and that's that. But the people who remain fighting must continue to do so. And even though things look grim and dark and horrible, they must keep their spirit up and simply weather out the storm and be very strong in mind and spirit. Mm-hmm. They must know that they will see a lot of death and destruction, but it is possible to live past this. So the people who are strong enough to survive the horrors do have a fighting chance to survive. And this is where it goes into your question, what should we do to help this fight? Where we are not helping any fight. We are the fight. We are the ones. There is no some other fight going on and we are helping it. We are the fight. This is it. This is on us. This is all in our control, in our power. And if enough people say no, and this is going to be important now, if enough people say no, even the Illuminati and those dark levels will have to respect that. And Aleka here explains. Remember that the Illuminati, one level of this, because there are many levels, always back down from their agendas when people say a firm no.
It's been happening over and over in the last couple of months. The governments are backtracking from mandates because healthcare workers all stood together, because teachers' unions have stuck together here in Canada, Canada Post and the RCMP. So yes, they do actually back down, but we need to stand up. You're absolutely right. Keep going.
This is the only way.
Yeah.
The problem is that now, here, this is not being controlled by the Illuminati themselves only, but by much deeper levels of this control system over Earth. This is being orchestrated from non-human ET levels, using the reptilian level and the Maitreya level of things as part of this sick game or agenda. This is above reptilians. It's Federation. But wait, hold your horses. We are accusing the Federation, yes, but one specific level of the Federation, not all of them, and it will be understood as I go on. So this is orchestrated from non-human ET levels using the reptilian level and the Maitreya level of things as part of this agenda. And more can be understand why this is above human when you read this recent lab report that the Taigetans did. They actually took the samples of the papaya things and they analyzed it in their laboratories, and they know exactly what's in it, and it is a technology that is above human. So now here I'm asking, because Aneka says that the Illuminati and those in control will always back down from their agendas when the people say no. So I say, okay, but if this is not orchestrated from the Illuminati level, but deeper, non-human, do those care about our no? Like, will those people care if we say no? And she says, they do, and they must, by space law. As we've mentioned before, the Federation, one level, is permissive, but both ways, which means that it would also be permissive to the ones who say no, and that can form a society of their own or develop strategies to fight this tyranny. So one level of the Federation that is just permissive, just monitoring, just observing, because that's their space laws, they are permissive to what's happening, even though according to Taigetans, that's criminal, being permissive to what's happening. That's their perspective. They would also be permissive to us if we stand up and say no and take over. That's why it's so important to stand up and unite and say no, because that also would be respected, even by that permissive level of the Federation, because they permissive whatever they permit whatever, because that's the game, that's the matrix. Souls go in here and they create whatever they wish. So the Federation, that one level, allows that, whatever, because that's what the souls want, to come in here and have this playground for themselves. So they are permissive, but both ways. That means it will be permissive also to the ones who say no. Now she says, but as I see things, being that permissive both ways is the equivalent of not only criminal negligence, but also of just about not even existing for humans by any practical terms. It's like they don't exist because they are just so permissive in any way. So, but I will insist in this clearly. Federation forces appearing to save humans will not happen as such as people want it. The people must fight this on their own with little to no help. I'll stop here for any questions or comments.
Well, what strikes me with everything you're saying now, you're talking about how it's basically baked in the cake here. There's extra levels of ET manipulation. I believe you and I had talked about it in our last show. You had your transcript about the analysis of some of those samples. So I recommend that people go and read that at swaru.org, and the links are in the description box below. But these dark times that are coming, Cliff High had a video. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Cliff, but at any rate,
I know him, but I haven't watched the video, no.
Okay. He had a video out maybe a week or two ago, and he's basically saying the same things you are here. We are going through this difficult period of time. He calls it the Great Initiation. And in this initiation, humans are being tested right now to their loyalties, whether they're loyal to their freedom or they're loyal to this matrix. And so whether people are aware or not that they're making these choices right now in this initiation, they are very much 100% part of this initiation process. And the quicker they realize that, the quicker they can take those small steps and actions for themselves to navigate through that initiation with the least amount of difficulties as possible. I think that's one of the ways to say it. Now, in the Taigetan perspective, you've just mentioned now that yes, humans can actually go through this. You said words similar to that effect yet, but we have to work at it. Can you maybe take a parenthesis here and dive a little bit deeper into that? Maybe past conversations about how, yes, in fact, this is a difficult time, but it's also a very exciting and perhaps a very positive time for humanity to, if we can graduate through this initiation, what's on the other side of this for us is absolutely phenomenal. What does the Taigetans think about that?
Okay. I just wish I could go through the conversation I had with Yaski 2 days ago, because we just talked about something similar with her 2 days ago, and I'm going to make this very important video. And this is about the holographic society. We started talking about holographic society. By the way, we're going to change the name for that, because that has a negative associations, but that's more for in the video. And Yaski was explaining about the times that are coming and the holographic society, and she was actually explaining that for now it is not really possible to create the holographic society as it is. What is a holographic society? You would need to see in my channel. That's a type of society.
You and I talked about this last year too. We went into detail about how humans can create this new, more organic type of collective and governance systems. And I think you had mentioned the holographic part or naming convention at that point, but it's still not the right name. We're all trying to download what that's going to look like and how we are going to create this new governance system for more of an organic human governance. But keep going. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, yes, exactly. And she was explaining why it's not possible to create that kind of society as it is. And she's explaining how, first, it's not about creating itself some sort of a social political structure or model, but it's about reprogramming she used the words spirituality, ethics, and morals of the people. The mentality of the people themselves needs to be addressed and changed and reprogrammed. So what she's talking about those transitional societies that will be possible to operate. What the Taigetans really believe is that those transitional societies and even those future societies should be mentored by the positive, benevolent ET races, because that model is actually it's how they run their societies. Their societies are based on those advanced, holistic, like you said, organic, spiritual models. But it cannot emerge as it is now, because like your guest, you said we are going through these initiation times.
And not only can it not be merged, we need to destroy the old in order to create the new. So this new holographic, whatever you want to call it, is not going to be an imprint or change of the old systems. No, the old systems have to go. They were born out of different energies, and they must absolutely go. And we're witnessing that in real time, really, when you look around the planet.
And that's exactly what she's talking about actually how both sides.
We must be psychic. We must be psychic. We're talking about the same things. Okay, I'm looking forward to that next video. When are you posting that?
I don't know yet, not in the future, but I will send it to you when I have it. But she was talking about how actually both sides, the positive so-called and the negative so-called, they have to destroy what's happening right now to implement their new order. So even the negative side, the new world order, they need to destroy what's happening right now on the current system, to create the new one. And the same actually for us, for the positive side. We need, in a way, it needs to be disintegrated, the systems we have now. So anyway, more about this in that video, because I don't remember much from it right now. I didn't go through it.
Well, when you're ready with that video, perhaps you and I can come back and do another subsequent interview on it and kind of break it down for the audience, because on my show as of late, I've been trying to have these conversations and elevate the level of conversation, because there's still some truthers out there who are very much oh, when's Mr. B going and when's Mr. T coming back? And to me, these are all very low level cons, and we need to elevate the conversation much, much, much
Yes.
higher in order to go through this initiation. And to some extent, yes, I understand these are important topics for some people, and for some people, they are topics that will very much trigger them into their own soul mission. And yes, to that point, it's valid conversation. But I'm also trying to reach out to the people on this channel who are ready to have a much higher conversation and who see how we need to change here, and that we are in fact going through this huge initiation process for humanity, all of us together, and that we have an opportunity, perhaps for the first time in thousands of years, to really change the course of our history and recapture our own autonomy. And for that, I'm excited. But this means having difficult conversations and sometimes agreeing to disagree, but to bring all of these points of views together. So again, GOSIA, a big thank you for being on the show here and sharing your point of view and your team's point of view, because it is an absolute integral piece to these difficult conversations as we graduate maybe from childhood into maybe adulthood as a human species. So a big thank you, GOSIA. Keep going.
No, you're welcome, and definitely I would like to come on your show when I do those videos. It's going to be a series of videos on a holographic society and implementation of that. Although we are changing the name, like I said, because it has negative associations. So going back to this transcript here, okay, the last sentence was the humans must fight this on their own with little to no help. Now, my question here is about the Federation, because she said they are just sitting there monitoring. But then she also said that what's happening with the papayas is above human level, orchestrated from above, Federation level. So I said, okay, are they just permissive or are they orchestrating? I want a clarification on this. And Aneka is explaining here. Seeing this as an onion, to one level, they orchestrate. From another, they are simply permissive. And now you understand what level is permissive and what level probably orchestrates this. Life as such is not only what the humans can see from Earth, but also the influence they receive from deeper levels of the same game. So now I say, are you saying this to mean that one level of the Federation orchestrates this and another only monitors? Which level would that be that orchestrates this? She says, there is one level of reality, of things, the human perception level. Then there is a deeper level when it's all run by secret societies. Then a deeper level one that is led by regressive reptilian and gray non-human races. And yet a deeper level that is secret societies that run those races. And then their associations with federations levels, also placed or structured as an onion. And one level does not necessarily know what the other is doing in a compartmentalized way. Now, we believe it's been orchestrated from the level where secret societies run by humans, the deepest human level, meets the secret societies that control the reptilian and maitre levels. But very possibly this may run deeper. So I say, okay, but that's not the Federation, no? She says they do coordinate with certain levels of the Federation, probably Saturn ones. But we cannot know for sure how much or how. We suspect they communicate directly to at least Saturn Federation levels, jumping local Federation levels. This means that the local Federation levels are sort of innocent in this, and they don't know what's happening themselves. So this is orchestrated and coordinated from the even deeper level of the Federation. So she says, jumping local Federation level, Andromeda, Viera Federation level, because the headquarters are by the Andromedans, because we know that representatives in Viera, the Andromedan headquarters, because we know the representatives in Viera well, and we do believe them. They are not making or causing or orchestrating any of what is going on Earth. I must insist that the local Federation authorities here are horrorized and frightened with what is going on and do not consent either, but they also have their hands tied up. And I say tied up by what? By their own limitations because of space law and rules that even we have to abide by. So again, she's claiming that this is run and orchestrated by the non-human levels, deep Illuminati levels, reptilian and Mitra, in coordination with Saturn level of the Federation, jumping over the local Federation levels that she believes is innocent. And that's why here we have people who are going against us when we say the Federation is bad, because they're not listening to our story. We are not saying all the Federation is bad. We are saying certain levels of the Federation is bad. Now here,
let me just stop you there. Oh my God. You're opening up a hell of a can of worms. And in my head too, I was like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm trying to map in my brain all of these levels and see how they interact with each other. And of course, we as humans, we don't have that right now to look at. We can kind of glean at it, but we don't have a clear picture. So understanding this becomes very nebulous. But it's the same thing. If you said at the low level, you could say, oh, the FBI is a bunch of liars and blah, 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 blah. Well, there's a lot of good people in the FBI also, right? So there's these different levels, and some of these maybe more professional FBI players who've been there all their life and they're absolutely professional and good at their jobs, they might not know about different components, like in the next door business or next door over or next office over, how absolutely contrarian their activities are for the benefit of the mission of the FBI. So too could be the case here at the Federation level. Man, we would need an org chart to kind of play. I'm very visual, and I know that some of my audience members are visual too. So at some point, it would be great to kind of put that in little boxes and kind of really see where we're going on. Because as humans, I think if we start peering into that too, this is where I was asking you in that email, what can we do? Well, raising the level of consciousness and comprehension of all of these players is absolutely something that we can do, because that empowers us to say that no, that you said that will be respected here through universal law at one level or another. But in order to be able to say no to something, we have to be cognizant to the whole situation. And right now, we are not cognizant of the whole situation. I love this conversation, GOSIA. Keep going.
But you see, that's my point here also, when a lot of people are getting angry when we are sharing these lab reports or, these negative discoveries. We need to know what we are up against in order to know what we are supposed to say no to. We need to have this knowledge. This is part of the fight, to be aware and educated, so we then can choose what we say no to and what we say yes to.
Well, so if you don't know you have cancer, and your doctor doesn't tell you you have cancer, you're not going to make the changes in your life, to your diet, to your sleep patterns, to your medication, all of that to fight that cancer. Of course, we need to know.
It's so common sense to me. So here she's saying, okay, so the last sentence, tied up by what? By their own limitations because of space law rule. Okay. Now she's saying, we Taigetans, because many people are saying, why aren't you there intervening more directly?
Like you yourself, the Taigetans.
Yes.
Is the question. Yeah. Okay. Keep going.
Yes. Even though they are, and they're always trying to go against those Federation rules. Even the fact that they took those samples, that probably was not very much appreciated by the Federation at all. It's giving too much information to humans.
Right.
So anyway, here there is a point. We Taigetans cannot help in more direct ways, like direct military action or even lighter things, because we would become the aggressors and the space invaders to Earth, to the majority of people. Same for the rest of the Federation here. And this is a big philosophical implication here, because many people on Earth are matrix people, and they would be viewed, if they came in and tried to save the human, they would be viewed as invaders and aggressors. But now I'm saying, but no, you would be counteracting the space invaders who are already being aggressors, Mitra and all those with their non-human tech. And because those are already invading us with their non-human technology. So in theory, that should not be allowed by the Federation, because they are introducing non-human, beyond human technology. It's not fair. It's not it's not legal according to the space laws as well. And she says, yes, we can and do argue that. But then it's a question of perspective and legal matters, making all this a nightmare. A lot of bureaucracy exists in a Federation. So it's not as simple. There is a lot of bureaucracy. It's not love and light, and it's not just age.
It reminds me of the movie Jupiter Ascending, when they're trying to go through all the levels of bureaucracy to get that certification stamped or whatever. And it's just like, oh my God, it's a nightmare. Bureaucracy is worse than the planet, actually. Yeah.
So
Yeah, crazy.
imagine the level of bureaucracy there in the Federation with all these levels. It's a nightmare too. So she's saying, so the point here is that we are quite sure this has been orchestrated by deep human and non-human levels of beings on Earth. Now, who is helping them from the outside? We do not know. But we are also quite sure they are getting help from the Federation levels above local, the Saturn Association. So now, here I'm asking about Mars, because you asked me about Mars, what's happening on Mars. So I'm asking, and she says, well, nothing new there. And if you want to know what's happening on Mars, I made that video on Mars just a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
When I say nothing new, I don't mean that it's just an empty land. It's heavily militarized, and there are conflicts, there is action, but nothing new according to, like, in her perspective, because this is like nothing new for her. Now I'm asking, any basis?
So just to be clear, because this is some of the questions that the audience members are asking, has there been a shift in the power table on Mars? Did one group overtake another group? It's still the same, blah, 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 conflict.
Say the same, blah, blah, blah. According to Aneka last night, I didn't deepen the subject more.
Okay,
but I think
very
if
good.
it was something of more important nature, she would have told me.
Okay, very good.
I asked. And now I said, what about the bases on the moon set up? Because some people talk about also action on the moon. According to Taigetans, those who don't know, the moon is an old, not functioning now Andromedan spaceship who is just floating there. It's not organic and it's abandoned and not much going on. But she's saying the moon as a base, as a space station of artificial origin and ancient origin, it has been destroyed during time-mat wars, has been receiving a lot of traffic to and from, all Federation authorized. I say traffic, you mean before or recently? Traffic.
Okay, hold on a second.
Yeah.
You just mentioned Tiamat, the explosion. Yeah. So you're talking about a moon of Tiamat. You're talking about a piece of Tiamat that became a moon. And what's the difference between that moon you just talked about now and the inorganic Andromedan space station that we think is the moon? You're talking about two different things.
Was the planet, and it was destroyed during those wars. There.
Yes, but you just said something. The moon is having activity about Tiamat. So you just lost me. I thought we were talking about two different bodies in space here. Or are you talking about the same?
I just mean that Andromedan ship, that is a moon, was destroyed during the time-mat wars, and now it's just an abandoned junkyard.
Okay. So we're talking about that same piece. Okay, keep going now. I understand. I thought you meant, there was another piece of Tiamat that came in and joined the Andromedan portion. No, okay, I understand now. Okay, go ahead.
No. So I'm asking, traffic to do what? And she says, there is traffic there for years. But I can say in the last year or so, there has been a lot of activity there. I mean, it's logical, as it can be a useful place if you can restore some areas. I say, why so? What kind of traffic? To do what? Well, she says, as a place to install equipment or to house operations from, not minery. But she's saying it's not SSP. It's not Secret Space Program, or only if in coordination with Federation forces. And I doubt it's SSP. SSP has more activity around Mars. And who is running SSP? The same deep levels where the human blends with the reptilian. It's mixed Cabal human with Cabal reptilian. Secret Space Program, mixed Cabal human, Cabal reptilian, running Mars, operating on Mars, one part of it, 1/3 part of Mars. So she's saying whatever is happening on the moon, it's more Federation operations.
Got you. Okay. Now, is it possible that level that you said with the reptilians may have originated or started or had its inception on the moon and now have moved to Mars? Is that your understanding of that transition, or was that relationship always from its inception on Mars?
I don't know.
Okay.
I have no idea if they had something on the moon before and then they moved to Mars.
Okay.
I'm not sure that she would know that. Okay, now I'm asking this, and this is also something that's going to be incriminate the Federation. It's logical, because I say, okay, If the reptilian and cabal reptilian races are not supposed to be flying around atmosphere, as we already explained in the beginning, they are always monitored and shot down even by the Federation police patrol, then how come they are on Mars? How are they allowed to be on Mars? So I still don't know how they're allowed there, how they are not being kicked out of there, if humans or reptiles are not even allowed out of Earth. I mean, Centauris shoot at reptilian ships in the Earth atmosphere all the time, but there they have the whole 1/3 of the planet suddenly on Mars. Why? And Aneka says, and this is going to end now soon. Aneka says, this is why we know they are not acting alone, precisely because of this. This is why we know they are receiving help from Federation levels above Viera, above local level, because they are transiting with spacecraft in Federation space freely, but far from Earth, around Mars.
Unencumbered, yeah.
This means the Federation is with them to some level or another. It just doesn't add up.
Mm-hmm.
So why are those SSP allowed? Because they are under Federation control. That's the truth. So this means we have a shady Federation level. And so this means we have a shady Federation level. And even a local Federation level accepts this. And just ending a note, we from here do not hold all the answers.
And where does that put the role of the Centauris, who are basically being the, I guess, galactic version of our solar warden? Why would they leave this activity unattended on Mars? So somebody at some point is having some influence on the Centauris as well, no?
Exactly. The Centauris are like Federation's watchdogs, as they said one day. So they listen very much to what the local Federation tells them to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually they are ex-humans. We had a video about Centauri, and they are actually humans who were found abused by the reptilians and liberated by the Federation. Actually, it's a long story, and so they have a lot of history with Earth, and they want to help, and they are helping the way they understand the help is needed, but they follow very much what the Federation says. So yeah, they allow what's happening there because the Federation on some level allows this. As Aneka says, they are probably working together and coordinating this together on some level. As she says here, SSP is under Federation control. That's the truth. Shady Federation level.
Mm-hmm.
That's why this is so complicated. It's not so black and white, and we will always say this. And
well, clearly, like you just said, just pointing that out begs the question here, hey, what's really going on? It's not that simple. Just by the clear fact here of this pocket on Mars, if indeed there is this pocket on Mars of reptilians and holding out and having free reign apparently and unencumbered, again, it's just, these are why we're having these conversations. I wanted to bring your attention also, and maybe you don't know, and that's okay too, Bruce Cizal is a gentleman who's been on my show. He's got this massive telescope set up, and he's been taking pictures and video of the moon. That's his hobby. Amazing channel if you haven't checked it out. But in the last couple of weeks, he's been picking up quite a bit of activity on the moon, craft in formation on the moon, and what also he's perceiving, and I'm going to say that because again we're zoomed in very far here on the moon, but what looks like explosions. And this was very recent here in the last 4 or 5 days, and quite a few people picked that up. And man, it's very compelling. These are not birds coming in front of the of the telescope here. There's much more happening to the eye. So I'm curious, maybe in your contacts' points of view, was there anything recent, maybe this week, on the moon that they can speak about that maybe would address, or is this just same old, we're just now for some reason being able to capture it with some telescopes, maybe just out of pure luck and also pure intuition by this individual who's out there day and night here trying to capture things?
No, they haven't mentioned anything that happened recently, and I think if there was something of transcendental nature worth being mentioning, they would probably mention it. And
Okay.
Aneka, in the last chat yesterday, she would mention something, but I don't know. I will have to ask again. One second, I actually missed one sentence. Oh, one sentence I missed in what she said. She said, so a lot of flight operations in the atmosphere, and yes, sometimes they do shoot down regressive spacecrafts, as happened some days ago over the skies of Washington state, witnessed by thousands. That was no meteor, it was a ship breaking up in the atmosphere. I missed that sentence for some reason. So if anybody knows anything about that sighting, something happening
I
in
think
Washington
Carrie
state.
Cassidy posted it yesterday or the day before, and she had some contacts also who had seen it and said that the video was legit, that there was clearly something that had broken up, and it wasn't a meteor. So that's interesting.
No, so
Oh.
here she's confirming that I was a ship breaking up in the atmosphere because they are being shut down all the time. Yes, by those local federation levels.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, the moon, yeah, like she said, in the last year, for some reason, there are a lot more action there happening, but I don't know what specifically. Also, remember, for the new people, the Taygetians are very few. They are only 30, I think, people on board. So it's not like we have the whole crew in thousands, like it was a few years ago. Actually, there were thousands of them. Now not anymore. So they're also limited in what they can do. They have their hands tied up by the bureaucracy of the Federation, even though they do what they can. Someone mentioned in the chat soul traps on the moon. No, they told us that doesn't exist. There's no such a thing as a soul trap, and you're always free to go where you want to go after death. You're free to choose. So they're always empowering us in that sense in our information, that there's nothing that limits you. It's just your own ideas that are going to limit you and create.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say that nothing's limiting you other than your own limitations. Right. Yes, and those limitations are there in a big part because of karma and also this matrix of control on the planet that infuse these ideas and these limitations in human beings. So yes, I agree with you at that level. That's fascinating. Wow. Somebody in the chat says, JC, what does this matter? None of this matters. It's all a distraction. Well, if it's a distraction, you don't need to watch my show. But my point of why it matters, me personally, and I'll answer the question, is because we have to look at these bigger pictures. And for some people, they're happy with the narrative as presented, for example, in the movie The Wizard of Oz. Dorothy, at the end of the movie, The Wizard of Oz, she realizes that, oh, it's just an old man behind the curtain, right? When the dog pulls away the curtain, and she says that old man has no powers. He's just moving levers. We as humans have power. That is one point of view of the child here in The Wizard of Oz. But for some humans who are graduating and going through this initiation process, we're going into the adulthood version of the ending of The Wizard of Oz and saying, wait a second, who gave the man behind the curtain the technology? Mm-hmm. So, of course, that's not a distraction, because if you think that's a distraction and you overlook that question, you are prone to falling into the next matrix of control that they're attempting now to place over us, right? Because it's going to be, here's the new boss, same as the old boss, right? And so this is why we're having this conversation. Whoever was asking that question, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate that some people might not agree with our points of view, and that's okay. That's part of having this adult conversation here on the show. I appreciate that. What do you say to that? The whole idea of this initiation process and understanding these bigger concepts so that we're not fooled again, time and time again, fleecing this whole scenario on the planet, which is now in flux, as you said. Even the bad guys now want to destroy the old so that they can put in their new system of control here. So what do you say to that, GOSIA?
I don't know. For me, it's just common sense. I want to know as much as possible, and I want to know who is pulling the strings. I want to know what the reality is about. I want to know the limits of my reality and what's happening around me, so I can then choose. So I'm not limited. So I'm not manipulated. I want to know it all, so that I can create my own reality from what I see, and move forward free. In my understanding.
Your teachers in school must not have loved you because but why? They're like, oh, go.
Actually, no. I was totally silent in class.
Oh, okay. I was that kid in school. But why? They ever said, Jean-Claude, stop asking questions. Let's move on with the course. I always
to be honest, they told me that I walked into this body as a walk-in much later in my life.
Oh, that's interesting. Wow. Do you know what age? Do you have an idea what age? Do you want to talk about it or no? It's okay if you don't want to. We can do another show if you want to. I don't want to.
not long ago, actually. I was surprised. That's all I can say.
Wow, that's fascinating. Okay, wow.
I think
Janine,
it's also
you listen,
number.
guys. Janine and I were doing an episode. I forget which one it was, about 3 weeks ago, and we were talking about. I think it was with Sherry Divban. I forget who it was, but we're talking about these walk-ins now coming in
Yeah.
with these very specific missions, and this is reality. And so again, from different perspectives, we have to understand here, but things are much more complex than they appear to be on the surface. That's for sure. Wow. Okay. Well, Gosha, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you ever want to come back and do a show on that, I'd be happy to have you on. We could talk about it.
No, it's okay. So my point was here is that I was very different when I was a child. So completely like 100% different person. And I feel very weird when I go, to Poland to visit my family or whatever. I just feel like it's some sort of a programmed experience, memory for me, but it's not me. And they told me, because they told me that I was in the immersion pod and all that. They gave me the immersion pod number and everything, the same as Dale Harder also, and they told me exactly the date when I came in. And so it's quite amazing. Not long ago. Okay, I can tell you, it was when I was 40. So it was actually 4 years ago.
Wow.
And I think it's specifically to do this.
You just mentioned Dale. You and I had interviewed Dale.
Yeah.
Maybe a year ago now. I forget. Not on this channel. I think the previous one, or it could have been the previous one. How's he doing, by the way?
He's doing okay, but also, he has all different types of pains, and he's not doing well with that. I don't talk to him that much recently, here and there, but
Okay.
yes, he's there still kicking and still trying to help, being active. I think he mentioned something about being involved with med beds or something, working on that with someone.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
I would have to bring him on and see what he's up to.
Wow, that'd be cool. Okay.
Yes.
Gosha, well, thank you very much for that report. That does kind of fill in the gaps about what some of the audience members were asking about. And I think we went above and beyond some of those questions there that were sent to you. So that's really good. Now, as we're talking now, and perhaps if you're being psychically guided also, or either by the chat, is there anything else today you wanted to share with this audience that you think is important to come across here before we end the show?
Well, no, but I just did want to mention very quickly that few months ago I had this calling. I had this realization that the time to educate the matrix people about what's happening maybe is over, and most of them have already made their decision, and now it's time to make our own troops stronger and unite the star seeds and to have them work toward the same goal. And because when one, this was mentioned also by the Sagetans, that when one star seeds work together, is very, very powerful, has more influence on what's happening around than a normal person, even though we are all extraterrestrials, but that's another topic. But when the star seeds get together and they start working together and they unite, this has a much more powerful effect. So I started organizing these support groups, and around in Telegram and in Facebook, to kind of reinforce our own soldiers, because that's what we are. That's what we all are. Yeah. So instead of now being distracted and dispersed, because that's the problem, we are very powerful but dispersed. And trying to get to the matrix people, come on, believe me, no, they already made their decision, whatever. So now it's the time to focus on ourselves and to gathering our own strength and moving forwards as a unity, as an army, because that's what we are. We just don't see it, but we are millions.
Yeah.
So
we are the cavalry we were waiting for. You're absolutely right. And I love what you just said here too about us coming together. It's not necessarily about waking up any people anymore. It's about congealing and bringing together those who are going through this initiation process and who will be in charge with creating the new. And to that effect too, I mean, you've had trouble with censorship on your shows before. I've had mine. I've been deleted a couple of times, and quite a few psychics have always told me the same things. Yeah, JC, they don't always like your points of view, but this is not why you're deleting. You're being deleted because you're assembling all of these people together in one roof, and that's dangerous to the matrix. So I'm like, oh, okay, I see. So, and it's funny too. You and I'm not sure you and I had talked about this, but perhaps maybe for another show. Oh yes, in fact, you and I talked about this maybe 2 years ago. We talked about the different blood types and how
Yeah.
some of them are being used for different reasons now, for walk-in purposes, for the different star seeds to kind of level the playing field with some of the regressives that are also using specific blood types on the planet here for different powers. I guess that's the best I can say it here, because I don't want to get into that can of worms. But maybe we can come back and revisit that, because a lot of those blood types are here on the show too, and I'm sure they'd be curious to maybe understand a little bit more of why they're in those specific vehicles at this point. So maybe you and I can do a further show on that, and you can invite maybe some of your contacts also to weigh in on that conversation if it's time, because I do believe yesterday I had an interview with Bryce Watson from Esoteric Atlanta, and in the poster she's going like this, and a lot of people said, oh, that's Illuminati. And no, actually it's not that. This is guide and spirit and universe saying, hey, for some of you right now, you are still very much undercover. You need work, but you need to do that undercover, and some information cannot come out just yet. There's a initiation process, as we've just discussed. So, wow, fascinating conversation with you, Gosia, as always.
That's Illuminati as well. That's why my friend, Mr. Bongo Biggles, doesn't appear anymore in the videos, because I have been accused that this is a cabal message. So, and also my hair, that I'm blonde because I went through the initiation, so I'm MK Ultra. So anyway, the people will be looking for any of these codes. You know, the way I have my hand right now, probably there's some kind of a secret messaging to that too.
All right. I love it.
No, don't worry about that.
I love that we can laugh about it, because what else are we going to do at this point? I know. And I was saying this to somebody the other day who was accusing one of my guests, and I said, look at the body of work. It's not because you might have interpreted. And here's another thing with symbols. A lot of these symbols were originally being used on the positive side, and now in this current incarnation, they're used by the negatives, and we see them as having negative connotations, and they haven't always been that way, including the swastika.
Exactly.
Right. So, and you've done shows on this before too, folks.
And that's exactly what's happened with my logo. For example, my logo is a triangle, but so what? It's not an Illuminati symbol. And people are saying, why do you have an Illuminati symbol? Why is the triangle Illuminati? They are like, they took a property of that universal symbol that actually has probably a lot of metaphysical positive meaning. It was actually, I think, was mentioned somewhere in the conversation that it was also used by the Taigetans at some point, but by someone. It's positive, but the Illuminati took that, and now it's tainted forever. It's contaminated. It's like, I cannot use the triangle because the Illuminati owns this. No, well, I refuse that.
Let's reprogram the audience here just to get her on one of them, just for the fun of it. This triangle that you have is also the symbol of universal love. It's called the Sun 10 in Reiki healing. And so, again, this is a misappropriation of some of these old technologies. And we can, in fact, if you look at the one bottom here, you're talking about the people who hurt little children. And that's all I'll say. But this is a misappropriation of this one here, which is universal love. So again, these symbols are ingrained into us. And right now we are having, for some humans, reactions to some of these symbols because we are being coded in this particular incarnation to have those reactions. But we have the power to, I guess, redress some of those neuro-linguistic map patterns in our brain and realign with the original significance of some of these symbols. Not just that, but to empower ourselves with the power that comes from those symbols. And that's a whole other 2-hour show. Maybe you and I could do that next time.
I just woke up one day and I just knew that this was my logo. I can explain it. It wasn't anything rational. It was actually when I was opening a store, metaphysical store in Barcelona, long before I had a YouTube channel. And it was called the same, Cosmic Agency, my store, but in Spanish. And the logo just came to me in a dream. Like, I woke up and I just knew this was my symbol.
That's interesting. Similar to this symbol here, the Enzo circle and also the Tori gate. And this was not originally the symbol me personally I wanted for my show, but in meditation it came out. I'm like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to use. And I came to understand that the Tori gate is the delineation between the mundane and sacred knowledge. So this whole show is about going through that initiation process from the mundane to the sacred or to the spiritual. So There's a lot in symbology, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to go like, share, and subscribe here at Cosmic Agency, the English YouTube channel, and you can find all the transcripts of these communications with the Taigetan teams here at swaru.org. This was another episode of Cosmic Agency with the amazing GOSIA. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe here on my third backup channel. I just hit 50,000. You know, it's very humbling, GOSIA, to have to start back at 0 all the time. So this number doesn't mean a lot anymore, but it's still kind of cool to see. So thank you so much, everyone, for subscribing.
I think maybe what you should do, you should set up a 4th one and have people be signing up. That's what I have. Actually, I have a Cosmic Agency too, just in case.
Right. Somebody was saying, Jean-Claude, you should have BeyondMystic 007. I'm like, because I did a James Bond spoof a while back. I'm like, yeah, we're probably going to get to 007 at some point.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, GOSIA. And guys, tune in at 5 o'clock here in about 45 minutes. I have the amazing Indigo Angel coming up, and we're going to be talking about another controversial topic for you guys. That'll be absolutely interesting. And speaking of Bruce Cesal, I think he's back next Tuesday at 4 p.m. And we're going to be diving into some of that footage of the activity that he is picking up on the moon as of late. So lots coming up. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you soon, everyone. Au revoir.
Au revoir. Bye-bye.